Yo, what's up? One topic that many players, especially new players, are confused about is the desertion of players in Enlisted. Meaning people who leave games before the game's finished. Either at the beginning of a game, very often, or during a game, or sometimes at the end of the game, shortly before it ends. And Enlisted social media is constantly spammed with utter nonsense and whining and similar bloat regarding why people are doing it, and even more importantly, constantly spammed with so-called solutions to this problem. And we're gonna have a laugh today about these so-called solutions and in the process understand why people are doing it and what can actually be done to solve that problem. So, what is the actual problem? Well, there are basically three types of views regarding the desertion situation. You can split up the player base in three different camps. First, you have the whining chunk of the player base that goes on social media after losing a game and sees, oh, I lost the game and there were people in my game who left, and instantly assumes the game was lost because of people leaving and gives these people the blame. And these players are basically searching for easy excuses and ventilation projection instead of taking responsibility, because in the end I'm going to show you a screenshot someone posted today, which is what inspired me to do the video. And you see people in Enlisted hate responsibility. If you look at America, which is the country and population which produces the most social media output, you will see there's a strong tendency. I won't use the medical term because then the YouTube algorithms are gonna flag it. Yeah, so there's a strong mass tendency of not taking responsibility and just being stupid and emotionally incontinent and just being completely not mature, no matter how old people are. And these people, of course, need to blame others because they do anything to avoid blaming themselves. We're going to analyze this in a few minutes more in detail. Then there's the opposite. There's the chunk of players who understand why people are leaving. And, well, they obviously don't whine on social media, but they also rarely post or respond, because the Enlisted community is known for, well, being quite toxic on social media. And you can even ask ChatGPT regarding that, and ChatGPT will say, yeah, Enlisted is definitely among the toxic fandoms or communities, definitely not among the good ones. And then there's the third group. It's the, well, neutral masses, the people who just don't interact. And they're among, together with the second group, the reasonable ones, because they don't really understand the topic. Many are new players, or many are players who just don't care, but they don't whine on social media. Now, why is this segmentation important? Very simple, because understanding this segmentation tells you why this skewed view is there. Because it's the majority in modern times on social media will go on social media to just whine and complain and blame others, to feel better themselves. This is the basic problem. Now, we can prove this by looking at the actual reasons why people are leaving Enlisted games. So here's the list. The most important problem is that games are imbalanced in Enlisted. And everyone who played 10 games knows this. Maybe 15 games, depending on how many beginner games you get by the algorithm, because if you're a new player, you get thrown into 100% bot games. 100% bot games means you are a real player, and the rest is either also very new players or bots. So you basically get very easy games. And then maybe after 5 or after 10 games, you get thrown into normal games. And then you feel a complete different environment. And then you start getting the HE shells on your head. Or the full auto sprays after your newly spawned squad just emerges out of the rally point. Yeah, stuff like that. So the teams are rarely balanced. This is a big problem, very big problem. Many people who want to play the game don't like unfair teams. Unfair teams very often leads to instant stomping, meaning you jump into a game, you play the game, no matter what you do, after sometimes even 1 minute, the first objective is lost. And you think, what the fuck is going on? This is obviously not normal, it's obviously completely imbalanced. The objectives should never be lost after 1 minute. Never. Never. No. So, unless the teams are completely unfair. And then people say, why the fuck should I play this? Because especially players who already played many games in this game know that this game will be lost. And yeah, oftentimes you will think to yourself, oh no, I want to destroy the enemies, I want to prove my skill to myself and so on. Yeah, but if you did this a couple of times, you lose the motivation because there's nothing to prove to yourself anymore. So there's absolutely no reason to stay in these games. So this is one problem. Then there's also the problem of people seeing that when they start spawning into the match, the game seems to be full of bots. Most often people leave if they see that at the beginning of the game, their team only has 3 names and the enemy team has maybe 8 names. Now what does it mean? It means the game starts with 3 versus 8 and the rest is going to be filled up with bots. And people say, oh no, I don't want to play with a bot team. Now here's the truth, by the way. It's actually not bad, because since a few months, depending on whether it's currently bugged or not, since a few months, bot teams are on average better than normal players, especially on high BR. Why? Because here's the thing, if you're a good player, if you're a really good player, especially if you have an APC and you build rallies, and if you perform well in every other aspect of the game, especially if you can play everything, meaning infantry, engineering, tanks and planes, you can easily carry a game against an enemy team with 10 real players. The only thing you need is a constant supply of rallies and your teammates or your bots just going on the objective. And here's the fun part. Bots will actually do that. Now, Enlisted constantly is bugged out because the devs constantly fuck up. In theory, it should be done already since more than 1 year, but sometimes after an update it works, other times it doesn't. So it literally depends on whether you like it or not. But on average, bots are actually better than real players, especially on high BR, because on high BR, most players are new players nowadays who just bought their $10,000 premium tank as a Soviet, and besides that they have their army full with Mosinda guns. And after their $10 trillion premium tank gets blown up by a Panzerfaust, they switch over to their Mosinda gun squad. And guess how much that helps? Yeah, but if this player was a bot, the bot would have the BR5 equipment. And the bot would be able to shred back. Because if the enemies are shooting you with their FG-42s, the bot is going to shoot back with his Fedorov and his AVT or AVS and whatever. So also bots are using vehicles now. They're using tanks, so, and quite good enough even. So yeah, this is not a problem. But many players understandably don't want to play with bots, which is fair, because why should you play with bots if your enemies don't have bots? Also, most players don't know what I just explained. You literally need to play the game for years to be able to really evaluate the strength of a bot and all the different situations. I personally don't care whether I play with bots or not. I literally don't care. But many players do. And they have a right to, well, not like games where that's the case. What I do care, by the way, about is if the enemy team is empty. Because I know that I can, without a problem, play with 9 bots in my team, but the enemy players can't, on average. So this is why I personally leave many games where I see the enemy team is empty, because I know this will be a boring game, especially on the defense, because it will last for 30 minutes, because the enemies don't build rallies, or even if they build rallies, the bots are attacking, but they're not that quick attacking. So yeah, it will just be a boring sitting game for 30 minutes, which is not worth my time. And many players think similar. So yeah, imbalanced teams is always a problem. Another complaint many players have is, well, the console peasant risings. The console peasants rising. Yeah, because many players don't take console players serious. It's not because they're bad intrinsically. It's because console players are highly correlated with 12, 13, 10-year-old children playing. Now, this highly correlates with bad, not social, not teamwork playing. And this is why console players have a bad reputation. And there are many players who don't want to play with console players. I personally don't care, once again. I don't differentiate whether a console player, whether a normal player, whether a bot. In the end, it barely matters in Enlisted, because Enlisted in general has a very low skill ceiling. But there are some people, they literally refuse to play with console players. So yeah, for me, it's funny. I always think, oh, it's another console peasant revolution. Okay, nice, let's lead the console peasant army against the enemies and win. This is what most often it even motivates me. But yeah, also I like to assume that console players more often play in stacks, because they are all connected on the consoles and stuff like that. So yeah, this could help at least. I'm not sure though. It's always weighted with the downsides, but yeah. And then the last problem people have regarding imbalanced teams are sweat stacks. What is a sweat stack? It's multiple people, most often 4 people, stacking together and talking together in Discord and, well, playing together. In theory, this sounds good. I also used to do it for a short amount of time after I started playing the game. But then I noticed it leads to very boring, very one-sided games. Because even if you just have 4 average players playing together, the fact that normal enlisted players are very bad means that if you have a communicating team of 4 players, you get an insane advantage over the enemies. Insane advantage over average enemies, and it's basically impossible to lose. But the problem of having such one-sided games is they're boring. They're boring. That's why I recommend everyone, if you're very new, or if you're very weak, or if you don't want to sweat, if you want to play very relaxed, yeah, of course, sure, playing with 4 stack is fine. But if you want to play even at medium power, what I recommend is play only with one other person. So in a 2 stack, this is very fun. It's social, you can talk, you can communicate, you can share information during a game, but it's not overpowered. Also, you can have 4 spawns, 2 APCs, 2 rallies, and you can actually save games this way, no matter how bad your team is. But starting with 3 players, it already becomes a problem. But here's the problem with sweat stacks in general. Most people who sweat stack don't do it to have fun, cool games. No, they do it to actually create imbalanced, unfair games. Because most people, especially weak-minded people, they don't care about having fun or becoming a stronger player. They care about winning, which is obviously a loser mentality, because winner mentality is getting as good as it gets. Loser mentality is winning by any way possible, which is preventing these people from becoming really good at anything in life. So yeah, but this obviously is bad for normal players who are playing mostly alone, and then they get stomped by sweat stacks. This is also, by the way, one of the reasons why games often end in less than 10 minutes, because you get stomped, because yeah, you see, this is the problem. All of this is not fun and it's not fair. And people, especially experienced players, they can instantly tell you whether this is going on in a game or not. And they leave games. Yeah. Another reason why people are leaving games is when a game has started, which you can see by the fact that people are already having points and people died. And some people even died twice. And then you know, right, the game is going on for 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes or so. And many people don't want to play in games that already started. Which is also understandable, because if the game started and it's balanced, okay. But if the game started and the first point is lost, but people have like maximum 10 kills, then you know, oh, it's a one-sided stomp. Yeah. So yeah, I personally don't care that much about started games. What I do care about is if I want to record a video, I obviously can only show you games which I start from the beginning. It's completely stupid. Also, I can't really talk and explain the map if the game already started. So yeah, obviously for that reason alone, I have to leave these maps, these matches instantly. But yeah, and then now come, by the way, the 3 harder hitting problems, even depending on how you look at it. Antisocial teammates. Now, what's that? Well, there's a subjective and also objective composition of how you would define what is just being a bad player and what is being an antisocial player. Now, what's antisocial? Well, if you're playing well for the team, if you're doing good social behavior, which means in Enlisted building rallies, doing what's necessary. So if you need to defend, you defend. If you need to attack, you attack. You don't masturbate in the corner while your team is losing. Yeah, so this is social and antisocial behavior. And most antisocial behavior is simply not building rallies. Literally, all you need to do in Enlisted to be better than 95% of all players, and this is not exaggerated. Literally, it's that easy. Just build rallies. Just make sure you always have a rally or an APC or even both. And then you can have a comfy, easy game. You just need to place them, and then you can do basically whatever you want because the game will be quite balanced and working. But if you don't have that, games will be very annoying. You will run around, and if the enemies, well, have more rallies than you will likely get stomped. So this is a problem, and there's also oftentimes the case of players just talking bullshit in the chat and being toxic. Now, being toxic, I don't mean people saying allegedly bad words, which is, well, guess what? This is a game. People say words on the internet. If someone has a problem with words on the internet, I don't care as long as the player plays well. Because if someone has enough time to chat or to type and still plays well, well, he must be a really good player because most people can't even do one thing. Or yeah. So as long as the person isn't too toxic or insulting anyone, as long as he's just trying to say funny stuff, all right. But if people start insulting others on purpose, yeah, then it's also a problem. I mean, why would you do that? Like, why would you bring down the vibe? The best example is if you tell your team make rallies and then some primates say no. And I think, what the fuck's wrong with him? like how much brain damage do you need to have to give a negative response to an 100% right and good statement? Like, you literally have to be stupid or toxic to say that. And no, people don't do it for fun, because literally no one I ever know who's a normal, serious person would waste his time saying negative nonsense. So, and these people always have 0 rallies too. Yes. And fun fact, oftentimes you also, if you say, all right, make rallies, make rallies, attack from the right, attack from the left, because oftentimes if your team is on the attack and you wasted too many tickets, you need to know which side or which area in the map is safer to walk through. And if you say, all right, everyone go right, don't go left, the left is open, enemies will shell you with tanks and we're going to lose 200 tickets and lose the game. If people start discussing and arguing instead of performing in the game, this is also toxic. So I have the basic rule, and this usually, by the way, could help you too, because it helped me too, is if someone starts yapping, what I type usually is I say, first do the work and then talk. That's all I type. And some of those bums understand that. Because this is literally how it is in life. Before you open your mouth, you do something positive, and then you can open your mouth. Otherwise, you just shut up, because you have work to do. You don't have time to fucking chat. And yep, but many people aren't like that. But this is nice. Well, this is luckily quite rare. So this isn't that much of a problem, but there's still some toxic behavior. Yeah, also there are some ways for players to be toxic. I won't talk about that, because someone will fucking listen to it and then share it on some Brainrot Discord server, and then 20 people will fucking do that. This happens constantly, so I won't talk about what I did it like 2 years ago in one of my first videos. And then someone told me, I'm not sure if it's true, but then someone told me that people started doing that more often. I said, all right, apparently you can't talk about bad things on the internet because then people will do those bad things. Yeah, this is also one of the reasonable reasons why you don't talk about the names of people who do things in American schools, because these losers like to be, well, they want validation by getting famous for being a retard. But you don't give them this validation by basically making everyone forget about them. So no other idiot thinks, oh, I want to be famous. Okay, what could I do? I could become a good football player. Oh wait, no, I'm just going to become a retard and make bad things. Yeah, there's a similar process. All right, this is another reason. And then there's the, well, very basic reason of bad internet. Yes, especially if you're living in Germany, you're gonna have bad internet. But even if you're living in Switzerland, sometimes you just get suddenly bad internet. So games can oftentimes randomly stop. Also, you might have to leave or something's going on. Yeah, so there are always external reasons why you might have to leave a game. And then the last reason, bad game modes or bad maps, or more precisely said, unliked mods, game mods, and unliked maps. Enlisted has the big problem of you not being able to choose your map or your game mode. Now this is obviously fucking bad because it's 2025 and not 1995. Meaning it's absolutely normal and standard business quality for a shooter game to choose your maps. If you can't choose your maps, what the fuck's wrong with the developers? You have to choose your maps, especially in a game with Enlisted, where you have dozens of maps, and each map has multiple game modes. This leads to something like maybe 100 maps already. If you click join any button, you actually might be thrown into a roulette of something like 100 different map versions. Now, guess what? Apply the standard distribution on 100 maps and you will see, yes, around, let me quickly think, around 16 of them will be horribly bad, intolerably bad. Yes, so, and this is if you have standard tolerance for bad maps, which most people don't have. Many people just leave maps because they don't like them. Also, there was a time where you had, when you were playing Berlin, you got thrown into the train mode map, which got removed from the game a couple months ago. It was so bad, people hated it, and many people stopped playing the game. I also stopped playing the game for 1 month, because I once was forced to play the map like 6 times in a row. And this is when I literally didn't think about just leaving all the bad maps I don't like after connecting to them. And I literally played it on the weekend and I thought, okay, fuck this game. This is completely retarded. This is like, why the fuck? This is so horrible. And many people reacted the same way, but I never came back. Yeah? And by now the map got removed after the community was telling the Gaijin and Darkflow to fucking eliminate this map from the game. Yeah, guess how retarded it was to have such a bad map in the game that it literally causes your consumers, your players, to leave the game. Yeah, and this is another problem, and many people hate game modes viscerally. There are many people who say they hate destruction mode and never play it and always leave it. I personally don't mind playing destruction, ironically enough, because it is a little bit imbalanced, because it forces you to play more extreme. Especially if I'm on the attack, I know, right, I have to do some really intense hardcore stuff in order to successfully plant the bomb. And if I'm playing defense, I can just spam 1 trillion barbed wires and have fun. Yeah, but other people hate destruction. Well, the worst thing about destruction is you don't get points for defusing or planting. In many situations, it's not really like in Counter-Strike where you always get points, which is stupid, but yeah. Many people hate Conquest. I used to also hate it. Recently, I started tolerating it because the games got longer, but still. Assault in general is a horrible game mode and only playable and tolerable if the map is very good. But yeah, very, very agreeable for actually basically all the Enlisted players is the statement that there are very bad maps and very bad game modes in Enlisted. And some players, and like everyone, basically hates a few of them and doesn't want to play them. And currently you don't have a way to choose what you're gonna play. And obviously this leads to many players also leaving these games. This map picking and map choosing problem was promised to be solved last year in 2024 on the Gaijin roadmap, but of course Darkflow spent a year being drunk and not working on the game, and we didn't get any map picking mechanism, but it was once again implied and promised to be coming with the next update. So we, ironically enough, may have map picking finally next week. Yeah, so which is also quite good timing for this video to be released before. But still, depending on how much control you have, yeah, it's questionable how effective it is. Because here's the problem. Whenever people are posting recommendations about how to solve this, first of all, you rarely get someone who really understands all the actual problems. And then, if people start talking about solutions, they say, yeah, you should be able to exclude one map you don't like, and you should be able to pick one favorable map. And that's it. And I think, motherfucker, this game has fucking dozens of maps. You think like this makes mathematically no fucking sense at all. Also, the amount of maps or the amount of preferences and whatever the opposite of preferences, aversions, obviously needs to correlate with the amount of game maps the game releases every single update. Yeah, so you basically should have a formula, or basically, to make it simple, just give players a big number of maps they can choose to exclude and a big number of maps they can choose to play preferably. Also, it doesn't need to be a hard rule. As long as you just say, oh, I like to play those and I don't like to play those, and as long as most often you will avoid the bad maps and most often you will play the good maps, everything's fine. Because then, I can assure you, every player won't have a problem playing the bad maps from time to time. I completely dislike the Stalingrad factory map because it's just very monotonous and boring and stupid. But I don't mind playing it once every 6 months. Yeah, so, and this law, yeah. By the way, if the map actually had good weather effects, I wouldn't even mind playing it more often. I even like the outside area, but the inside area is literally copy-paste for 20 minutes. It's copy-pasted for the whole fucking area and it's boring to play. But yeah, I avoided playing Stalingrad for like 3 months in a row, or even longer. I even started liking playing Stalingrad recently, because I just didn't play it for that long. What I do right now is, whenever there are rain and weather effects, I stay in Stalingrad. Whenever there are none, I'm leaving Stalingrad. And this is how I decide whether I play it or not. So yeah, map picking and avoiding is a very important factor. So now, after 25 minutes, we understand finally why people are leaving maps. Now, what's the problem? The problem is almost no one playing Enlisted who complains about people leaving the maps, leaving the game, so desertion, understands this. What they say is they are giving people who desert the fault, they are blaming them instead of blaming the actual causes of the problem. Once again, NPCs confusing symptoms and causes. Because the causes are what I just listed. And people deserting is the symptom. It's not the cause. It's the symptom. And this is also very reasonable behavior, by the way. Because what is the alternative? Well, the alternative is people uninstall the game and stop playing the game. Because, well, guess what? If you are forced to waste your time on stupid, imbalanced, badly designed, badly coded gaming situations, you will just stop playing the game. And Enlisted is already in a very small player base and can't afford people leaving. Also, the biggest problem of Enlisted is, it has a very small player retention. Now, how do you know it? Well, the developers don't post the official data. This is always a sign of bad data, of bad stats, because if whenever a game is growing, developers always publish the good numbers. That's how every company operates. Now, some companies operate by a way that they, in general, never publish anything, because even if the situation is going good, it would obviously be instantly ominous if they stop posting data. So they want to avoid this sudden contrast. So they either never post or they just don't talk about it. The problem with gaming companies is many of them like to post good data. They like to post high Steam charts. They like to post high sales numbers and stuff like that. I've recently watched a video on a big, I literally forgot the name, a big channel talking about new RPG releases like Baldur's Gate and Avowed and other things. I'm a big Baldur's Gate 2 fan, but I didn't really like Baldur's Gate 3 looking at it. And also the story didn't really convince me. Maybe I'm gonna play it in 1 or 2 years, depending on DLCs and mods and so on. But there's this new game called Avowed, and the game got horribly ruined by stupid developers and all types of brain rot that we can expect. But apparently the game studio published like fake numbers or highly manipulated numbers. Like there's this old trick by posting an advertisement claiming the game is leading the Steam charts. Oh, this is #1 seller on Steam. Now, guess what was the case? It was #1 seller on one random European country. Yes. Well, let's put it this way. If there are like 30 countries in Europe, statistically alone, a game will eventually be #1 seller for maybe one weekend. Over the course of 1 year. This is normal fluctuation. If you're #1 seller in America, that means something. If you're #1 seller in buttfuck Balkans, it doesn't mean anything. Yeah? So, yeah, and this is the trick they pulled. So, yeah, so Enlisted can't afford players leaving in large numbers. But if people couldn't leave games that are bad or matches that are bad, they would leave the game overall. So this is the big problem. Yeah. Now, people demand punishments. And they say, oh yeah, we need big punishments. Okay, spoiler alert. There is already a big punishment. And it's called less experience and less silver. I think the punishment is 30%. So if you finish a game, you get the normal amount of payout. But if you leave the game, I think you get minus 30% of a punishment. Now, this is, I would say, fair. And it's fine. And everyone accepts it because people who leave the game accept it. And yeah, it's fine. Like, this is already the punishment. And people don't know there needs to be more punishment. Okay, this was already solved in discussion. But look, like, most people who cry for punishments, they don't even know that there's already a punishment. Also, I think that stuff like medals isn't counted. Now, here's the thing. The dude that made the post, obviously I don't know the person, it's some random person on the internet, complained that two players who left his team got medals, although they deserted. And he said, oh, why are players who are leaving the match getting medals? This shouldn't be the case. And then other people wrote, I also posted, and you can see it on the points. By the way, it's posted in the end of the video, also down below. Imagine you're in a team and your team is so fucking bad that people who leave the game before the end still outperform every other player in the team. Now, obviously, these people should get medals. If they have the most points, they should get medals. If they have the most, whatever the metrics are for all the medals, they should get the medals. This is the problem, where you see people don't have any responsibility and they completely lack any sense of what's adequate and what's not. It's not about getting fucking participation medals. Yeah, I know it's hard to understand for all the Karens. with their slow children yapping in American schools. But yeah, once again, American schools are causing issues. No, you don't get participation medals in real life. Neither do you get in a game where you actually have to do work, because Enlisted is actually a game. You need to do something, otherwise the game doesn't really work. You need to build the rallies, otherwise Enlisted can't be played. And if there's an enemy tank, you need to do something against the enemy tank, otherwise he's going to shoot down all of your infantry. This is real life, this is like real war. You cannot ignore a tank. Like, what the fuck, this is the purpose of tanks, you can't ignore them. Yeah, you can ignore a random infanterist with his rifle, but you can't ignore a tank standing around and shooting at you. So you have to do the work. You have to do what's necessary in an Enlisted game. Simply being there in a game, sitting in the corner and gooning, is not being productive. Being somewhere, sitting on your ass, is not being productive. Putting in the work is being productive. What I sometimes do before I leave games, especially when I see someone that I know in my team and I think, alright, I have to do something nice, polite to the person, I start the game, I quickly build a rally, and I call an artillery strike on the optimal spot. And then I know, if I leave the game, I likely did more than half of this team will do in the next 20 minutes. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's the defense game and my rally produces so many spawns that I even get a medal, despite playing the game for only like 30 seconds. Yeah, so this is how ridiculous it is. So, how do we change this problem? Simple and short answer, it won't be changed, it will stay like this. How do we know that? Well, all the empirical data since the inception of Enlisted shows exactly that. If an attempt is made every single year from multiple angles to change something, but it never gets changed over the course of many years with many different iterations of player bases, because the player base constantly renews itself, because most people leave the game since the player retention is very low, because the game is very new player unfriendly, and also because the social media work is very bad, because the new players mostly get a very toxic experience when they get into Enlisted social media. Well, all of this shows that you simply cannot change this. And it's logical, because if the core problems aren't addressed, it will never be changed. If you look at the post, link down below, with the screenshots I talk about, someone commented that, yeah, we need the punishments, and yeah, I agree, we need more punishments, and maybe they will be one of the things that were promised to change this problem. Dude, this is stupid. Like, it's literally a symptom, and this is obviously not an insult, I just described the situation. It's a symptom of people who don't understand things. This is the most polite way to describe it. If they constantly talk about symptoms and not about causes. Like, this is how you can instantly identify low information people. They only yap about symptoms, and they like yapping in their echo chambers instead of actually talking with smart, non-idiot people to, well, expand their understanding. Because if you're talking only with people who agree with you, you're gonna inevitably turn into an idiot. Because people who agree with you all the time make you stupid, and they keep you down, and especially since they are the ones who won't tolerate any of your own creative and interesting new thoughts. Yeah, especially America shows how ridiculous it is. But, well, Germany is also very retarded overall as a nation. And, well, most nations are nowadays, because social media makes basically everything worse. Because it's like an accelerator for any psychological metric. If you're very smart, you can learn much faster with the internet. Best thing literally ever invented regarding knowledge and learning. If you're very productive, if you're very industrious, you can get lots of things done, you can improve your efficiency, you can do everything. But if you're lazy, well, you can become lazier. If you're susceptible to brain rot and all types of nonsense, well, you're gonna be gooning all day. Yes, apparently what everyone's doing now. And if you have brain rot or some stupid radical ideas or thoughts or whatever, well, you're gonna find your appropriate echo chamber and get the full retardation transformation. Yep, and this is especially true with gaming player bases, where the majority will, well, free-to-play playing gaming gamer bases, because free-to-play attracts predominantly little children, like 10 to, I thought it's mostly 15 to 2. I thought originally Enlisted is played by 25-year-olds, and then everyone literally said, no, it's fucking 10 to 15-year-olds. And they're the ones yapping all of the brain rot. And eventually they turn 20, but remain similarly retarded because they were surrounded by, oh, guess what we just said, by the same echo chamber nonsense. So, yeah, this is the problem. And the player retention of older players is very small, because they just literally don't want to spend too much time. Most people I knew when I started playing 2.5 years ago, they literally left, or 3 years ago now, they left the game because it was just too fucking toxic. And they went to other games who aren't really better because, well, those games are either smaller or they're, I would say, boring like Hell Let Loose, but the player base at least isn't as fucking toxic. So, yeah, so this toxicity and this low IQ behavior is just, it will never, as long as this stays, you will never get proper discussions about problems, and you, of course, will never solve problems if they're not discussed. Because if Darkflow sees, oh, what do the peasants want? Oh, the peasants want punishments for the deserters. Yes. The peasants want Jesus to be crucified. Okay? What does Pontius Pilatus at Darkflow headquarters say? He agrees with the peasants, so the peasants shut up and start don't rebel and keep their mouth shut until the next release of new stuff. Yeah, this is exactly the problem. If the masses demand nonsense, they will receive nonsense, but they won't receive the good stuff. So there won't be any real solutions as long as people demand stupid solutions or stupid fake solutions. So yeah, as long as people demand punishments, nothing will change. If you want to change, you need very good high quality map picking combined with a big player base growth, because literally the only reason why map picking can't be can't be a 100% precise feature is because if the player base is so small, you can't. It's basically number dependent. The more players you have, the pickier you can be. It's a basic mathematic correlation. But if the player base is so fucking small, you cannot have very precise picking. If you go to a game which has like millions of players every day, well, you can be sure you can pick exactly what you want any time of the day. But with Enlisted, you can be happy if you get 10% of what you want. Yeah. Then if the team imbalances don't get solved, people will keep leaving. If sweat stacks are allowed to play against normal teams of normal single player players, single queue players, then of course people will be leaving. If people are thrown into games that are started, well, this is obviously unavoidable. This is okay. And yeah, this will always be, because obviously if someone leaves, there will be an open spot. Unless you fill the game with bots, then it's also solved. One-sided storms also can be solved by making the teams more balanced. I invented a method like a Enlisted adjusted elo system, which counts the amounts of medals and which you get in an easy way to create balanced teams. And I noticed it actually correlates highly with how players play, how productive they are in a team. Though, of course, Darkflow doesn't implement or talk about it. Instead, posts that demand punishments are the ones that are being discussed, because these posts are spammed 100 times every month. So yeah. And of course, as long as there's brain rot going on Enlisted, nothing will change. Now, regarding toxicity, yep, but as I said, like it's very subjective what people define as toxicity. I have to say though, this is one positive aspect of Enlisted. A very big toxic aspect is not true for Enlisted, and it's the cheating, because there's very little cheating in Enlisted. And ironically enough, after multiple after multiple deportations to the Darkflow headquarter gulags, in the outlisted postings, cheating became insanely rare. I literally can't remember seeing any cheating in the last months. And I didn't hear anyone talk about cheating. Literally the only cheating I know exists is sweatlords trying to become competitive gamers, and they are cheating thinking they are not, people don't see it, but the really good players instantly see if someone's cheating or not. So like many subpar players who know that they will never reach the really good ones, they start installing software that they think is invisible, but that's the good thing. If you're really good at a game, you notice if someone is if something is off. But normal players rarely have to play against them. So yeah, cheating isn't that much of a problem listed, which is very good, because other games are completely unplayable because of cheating. So Enlisted at least has this as a good aspect. And regarding the other type of toxicity, many people demand team chat and proximity chat. Yeah, proximity chat sounds like a very good idea. Also very realistic, because in real life, you also can hear what the soldier next to you is saying. This is literally absolutely needed for realism. But here's the problem. If you have a player base consisting of 10 to 15-year-old Karen indoctrinated NPC children, guess what? The first bad word they hear that they don't agree with, because these types of people, they use certain bad words that they think are acceptable. But if someone uses a bad word they don't like, then the world is ending. Yep, these types of stupid children will literally spam hundreds of thousands of complaints to Gaijin. Now, do you think Gaijin wants to waste money on this bullshit Brainrot complaining? Of course not. And that's why I'm afraid there won't be any menu chat or better team chat or any type of chat, because they literally don't want you to talk with each other. I've seen the same thing done in many other games. Like if you play Magic Arena, you cannot talk there. You literally can only send emotes and pre-made sentences. Yep. And literally, I'm too lazy. I'm just always clicking dancing stones. Like years ago, I bought stones that are jumping around, which is very funny, and I really like sending them. And whenever something happens, I'm just sending the stones. And yeah, but I can't send any words. Well, I can send hello and goodbye, but yeah, I'd rather send the stones. So I'm afraid, yeah, I think this will be enlisted too. By the way, a trick to be more social is I never use the in-game commands, like saying I need coordinates or release, or I don't know what I'm saying. I'm always typing, because it's actually more personal. And if you have good social people in your team, they value it more if you're actually doing the effort of typing. And they see, oh, this is more like a real player who's engaged than some random bad pilot who's spamming coordinates the whole time. Because if I ask for coordinates, it's like once every 3 minutes, and only if I didn't find myself the stuff I want to find, because most often if you're a good pilot, you're going to find stuff on the ground better than your team. Yes, so you rarely will need the team support. Yeah, so that's it. This is the sad state of enlisted desertion. Well, what means sad? It is how it is. That's literally the summary. It is how it is, and with the current situation, you can't change anything, but I explained how things can be changed. Though, since we know Darkflow is lazy and incompetent, it's very unlikely things will change. But if you want something to change, you can start posting more good posts, because Reddit is full of bullshit posts, the forum is full of bullshit posts, and all of the toxic fucks there constantly download everything that isn't their brain rot. So if you just start posting good things and always upload good things, then you can actually make a change. This is literally the only way, because Enlisted is in a social media echo chamber trap. It's just trapped in a endless cycle of negative feedback where the bad things just get repeated and reinforced, and there's no way out of it. Alright, so for the end, we quickly look at the picture that the dude posted. So here's our gentleman playing the Japanese as an Emperor's Chosen. in invasion mode, and he lost the game after 14 minutes. And both teams have very small amounts of points, very one-sided medal distribution, so the teams were completely imbalanced. And we see, yes, the game matchmaking failed. These are completely unfair games, unfair teams. This leads to unfair games and not fun games. Now, he specifically complained that these two dudes, most notably Kanye West, which is a very good pun, first time I hear it. These two dudes got medals. Ironically enough, he as the first player didn't even get the first player medal, which is usually the easiest to get because there's always one awarded. This is actually the first time I see it not being awarded. I guess they left literally in the last milliseconds, or they left in a very short amount of time, or time window, where it happens that, yeah, this is very funny. Now, he complained that they got medals, but no one else. And let's look at the problem. If you look at the points, these two have by far the most points, higher than anyone else. What does it mean? These dudes, despite leaving, were much more productive than the rest of the team. They have average death rates. This one even has a very good death KD. KDs aren't everything enlisted, but if anything else, if Ceteris Paribus, everything is the same, KDs obviously matter. And we can see he didn't build any rallies, but he was still much better at anything than the rest of the bot team. And bot doesn't necessarily refer to bots, it means also bad players. This Kanye West was very good. He did by far the most engineering. He died quite rarely and had the most kills. He even killed a vehicle. And yeah, this was by far the best player in the team. The most social player. He absolutely deserved all the medals. This dude also, well, didn't do engineering, but still was better than anyone else. Now, the dude who complained also was the either second or third best player. I would say he was better than this double medal because he actually did engineering, which this one didn't, and he never died. Which is quite important because, well, guess what? If you never die, you're not occupying the rallies. So if you're building rallies and you never spawn on them, you're basically having a double positive effect for your team. So he was a good productive player. He didn't have the best numbers, but still better than the rest. So yeah, he could have gotten a medal, possibly, but apparently these two just outcompeted. But the problem isn't even these two, because they likely only get 1 or 2 medals. Because the enemy teams got all the medals, because look at these numbers. Much better. Also look at all those engineering numbers. Significantly better than this team. And here's the problem. There's absolutely no reason to complain. This team just was fucking bad. Fucking bad. Ridiculously bad. So there's simply no hope. And most likely the lower players were all bots. Because if so many people leave, the team is going to fill up with bots. But the real players weren't even that good to begin with. Also in general, if bad players like these leave, you are actually happy to get bots. Because bots will be better performing than the bad players. I don't know which BR he played. If he played BR5, then he's definitely better off with bots than real players who are bad. But if the game is a one-sided fast stomp, there's nothing you can do. Because the bots, even if they play better than bad players, they won't change the outcome. Because the game was literally simply too unfair. So here's the deal. Okay, what do you want to do? Do you want to give more punishments to them? They're already getting less experience. Now, if I was in the team, here's what I personally would have done. I would have said, everyone make rallies. I would have repeated it twice. After that, if people don't build enough rallies, I would have left 2. Because why should you waste your time on antisocial, lazy egoists? And I'm quite sure these two, or at least this one, behaved in a similar way. They said, yeah, it's simply... By the way, this dude possibly was doing piloting. Because he likely shot down American planes. He was in a plane, he didn't die that often. And he never built anything. Yeah, he wasn't even a bad player. He also likely did exactly what the team needed. Because if the enemies have sky supremacy, especially if you're playing against Americans, which they usually have sky supremacy, you cannot afford building rallies and spawning APCs but then the Americans blow everything up. It's literally a waste of time. You need to kill the planes first and then build the rallies. Yeah, so these two dudes played well. He also played well, but you couldn't do anything because the matchmaking sucks. So yeah, there's nothing to save here. This patient is terminally ill and he was about to die anyway. This is the summary of this game. And yeah, the matchmaking needs to be improved. So these types of completely unequal teams can't be possible in the future. All right, let me know what you think. And of course, if you're new to the channel, which might be the case since we got many new players recently, subscribe and like and share this with other Enlisted nerds so all of us get enlightened about this topic of desertion in Enlisted, which, as you can see, is a complicated one. And yeah, we don't need more brain rot. We need more actual mature adult people who understand things and whine less on the internet. Until next time, with hopefully and very likely news about the new update, possibly the new update itself.